You want to share?
Okay. Video.
We have 80 now.
We'll just wait a couple of minutes for people to join. We have quite a number of people joining us. It's so wonderful. What do you think, Rania?
Yeah, great.
Absolutely.
Let's start.
Okay. Yay.
Okay, this is great. 99, 100. Okay.
Absolutely. This is lovely.
Shall we start?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. Today, I have Anne Armstrong with me. And today, Anne will be talking about making writing real. Basically, she's focusing on the audience. Anne is based in Malaysia, and she is one of the moderators in the community of practice groups. She moderates the secondary group and the writing group. And Anne has been a teacher and a teacher educator for most of her professional life.
Yeah.
And I'm Rania, and I will be happy to take your questions, read your comments, and attend this webinar, of course. Could you please write in the chat where you are joining us from?
Thank you so much for that, Rania. Yes, please, everyone. Can you just say hi and just let us know where you're joining from? So, Rania, thank you so much for that lovely introduction. And I too would like to thank everybody who's involved in the communities of practices in WhatsApp and also in the Facebook. So there's quite a team doing this. Also, a special thanks goes to Doa and to Amira for organizing us. I think that they also need to have a round of applause. So we have 127 people, 128, almost 130. Just say hi, everybody. Write a message in the chat. Great. I only see. Oh, now finally.
Okay, now.
Now.
It was disabled again. So
Okay.
we've got people from Egypt, Algeria, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Morocco, Iraq, Malaysia, and United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Dubai, Georgia, Libya, Sri Lanka, Oman, Tunisia, almost everywhere, Bangladesh, Qatar, Kuwait, Greece.
Nice. Brazil too.
Yeah.
Wow, it
Pakistan.
must be pretty early in Brazil, but I'm so glad that you joined us.
You're international, Anne.
Wow, I know. This is very exciting. Or I'm so excited to see so many people joining us from around the world. We seem to be going around the globe today, this morning. Well, wherever you are, where I am, it's evening, early afternoon in the Middle East and North Africa.
More participants from Pakistan and Sudan and Yemen also. Algeria.
Mm-hmm. Well, quite a few from Egypt too.
Yeah.
Tunisia,
And so,
Saudi.
yeah. And I can recognize some names, some of our really active participants.
Mm-hmm. Well, I hope they're looking forward to being actively involved this evening or this afternoon too, because we are going to be using the chat a lot to share ideas and to develop ideas. Let's just give a 1 minute or so for everybody to say hi. We've got Dr. Hirda from Oman, from Qatar.
And we've got Widad, we've got Besma, we've got Noira, we've got Tayab, many of our, participants in the groups.
We have Ramesh from Malaysia. Nice. Well, shall we get started? What do you think, Rania? I think so.
Yes, I think, yeah.
I think
we've got a lot of,
We've got a lot to talk about today. So thank you, Rania. Thank you for all of you who have joined from around the world. And as you know, we're going to be talking about making writing real. And this afternoon or this evening or this morning, depending on where you are, we are going to be focusing on the audience. So very quickly in the chat, please, what do you expect from this webinar? Just, 2 or 3 words. What are you expecting from this webinar? What do you think we're going to talk about? What do you think you're going to take away from it? Can you just write your ideas in the chat, please, everyone? To develop writing skills, or perhaps how we can enable our students to write well and to understand real life situations. Thank you, Mahadi. I think that's right. Looking for creative writing, creative ways of approaching the task of writing. Yeah. Student essays, authenticity. I love that word, authenticity in writing. Without our audience, we have no authenticity. Descriptive. Developing skills, developing perhaps our writing skills and of course our students' writing skills. Just ideas to write. Oh, well, that's nice. I'm sure we're going to get ideas from me and Rania and also from yourself. Authentic writing, yes. Giving models, calligraphy. Sorry. No, I'm not doing calligraphy. Sorry. That is not one of my skills. Yeah. Okay. So pretty much everybody, what we're talking about today is we're thinking about the audience. And we're going to be talking about the concept of what we mean by an audience, why it's important, and looking how we can create the sense of audience within the class, and also how we can use what happens beyond the class. So a little bit about that. So this is what we are going to be looking at. And we're going to really focus on how we can make the audience real for our learners, going beyond writing for the teacher. No, sorry, we're not looking at quick writing today. We're looking more of the process of writing. Writing, of course, is communication. When we have an audience, we have a real communication going on. Thank you very much for that, Halim Buddy. That's a really good point. Without the audience, we have no communication. And also attracted to the audience, but we're focusing more on finding out how we can create an audience in our classroom. Now, just a quick reminder, you will be able to download a certificate of attendance after the webinar is over. Keep an eye out for the link, which will come up towards the end of the webinar. And everybody, this is a huge favor. If you see somebody asking about the certificate, just say it's coming at the end and you'll get a link for it at the end. And anyways, thank you very much for everything. So we're going to move on, and here we go. Maybe we will move on.
Yeah, and for those staying, when we write, we have to take into consideration writing for audience. So this is what you're going to focus on now.
Yes, thank you thank you, Rania. Yes, thank you very much. It is. We're looking at not so much writing for the audience, but we're looking at how we can create the sense of audience in our classrooms or within the writing class, with, of course, a few tips going on. Now, so before we start writing, or I start writing, or you start writing, or we collectively start writing, what do we need to think about? In the chat, please. So what do we need to think about? Do I just pick up a pen or type up the keyboard and I just start writing? Or do I need to do something before I can pick up my pen or start clicking at the keyboard? We got
Anne,
yes.
we've got the type of text, the purpose, the audience, clear data, brainstorming ideas, topic, background knowledge, draw from ideas before, purpose, genre, audience, the topic, the register, audience, topic, objective, purpose and title.
Yeah, I think we have everything that I've written down here and more.
And
and
more and more
and more and more. Language, we got some really interesting things about formal, informal language. The method, the goal, what I want to do, prerequisites, interesting. Making it interesting. But I have this on the goal of writing. So why am I writing? Yeah, brainstorming and planning. That is actually very important. So Diana has said the reader, the audience, the age, the context, the topic, the plan, the word limit. This is looking towards very much what we do in tests and exams. Yes. And so thank you, everyone, for all those wonderful ideas. And I have summarized this as being the purpose. So the reason, my objectives, the audience, and the context. So what it is within the situation that I'm writing, and also looking at the media. So we've got a little bit about media layout and that kind of thing. So a lot of the work that I'm looking at here, I've taken them from articles from Utopia and also the British Council Teaching English website. I will share the resources at the end, so don't worry about it. So let's just go on. We're going to really focus on the audience. So what is an audience? Just complete the sentence. How would you complete this sentence? So what do we mean by an audience? Define the term for me, please.
Well, they say age, readers, viewer, spectators, readers, the level, my followers, to whom I'm writing, the receiver, the listener, people who will receive, the target readers, the target level, readers, my learners, reader of my writing, listeners, they receive the message, group of listeners, participants engage in writing, addressed to, target, those who the writing is aimed to, a person or people our content is for, important link of communication, group of people who I want to reach.
Yeah. And this is what we have. This is from Wikipedia. Basically, the audience, now we're focusing on writing here. So that means that we're going to be looking at the reader, or perhaps if somebody has sight issues, perhaps the listener. But it is a group of people who participate in a show or an encounter, a work of art, literature, a text, an email, theater, music. We're all part of the audience. And to me, please take a look at the word participate. Because as a member of the audience, we respond. If we read an email or a text message, we respond. And as I was thinking about this, I was thinking about, well, my audience for this presentation. Now, writing for an audience is something that is very close to my heart. But when I was considering, when I was preparing for this, I had to think about my audience, you, those of you who are out there listening to me and participating in this conversation as we're doing through the chat here. So we are building our knowledge together. You're the audience, you're also the participant. And I think that that's a really important part of being an audience. Even if we're at the theater, we clap. I hope we don't boo. We clap, we laugh, we may sing along with the song that we know. So we are a part of the audience, but we are also participating and adding that energy. And I think that's important too. The idea that we add the energy to the writer. So we add the energy when we're at the theater or a music concert. We also get energy from our readers as writers. So this is a really important concept in my viewpoint. And as you can see, I'm also very passionate about it in multiple levels. Rania, have I missed anything really interesting in the chat?
Diana saying it's people who interact with my writing or discourse.
I can't.
Beautiful.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Diana. Thank
That's
you.
right.
I can't say anything more than that. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so this is just a quick reminder. I will be mentioning some online applications. You know, you'll get the Google applications, the Word documents, a few other things, WhatsApp, probably WeChat. I would like to inform you, I'm not affiliated with any of these organizations. I get nothing from this, from mentioning them. They just happen to be the ones that I find useful. Also, a very quick reminder that if we are using online applications, we should let our institutions that we are working for or involved with know that we're using them, and of course, get permission. So this is a quick reminder. When I do start mentioning online applications, they're just the ones that I happen to use because they work for me. So everybody, after that, let's just move on here.
Before you move on, maybe, there's a question from Ahlam. What about the category of age? Is it also regarded with the audience?
Of course. I mean, you think about this. You think about this presentation. Most of the people who would be coming here, because it's inside of the Middle East and North Africa Facebook community, I would make assumptions. One, you're adults. Two, you're probably teachers. You're probably trained teachers. You're probably teaching English. And you're living in Egypt, or one of the countries in North Africa, or in the Middle East. So that would be my basic assumption. We've got some members who are from outside of that sort of area, but that doesn't matter. We're all English teachers. But would I do something on audience if I'm teaching primary one students, so grade one students or year one students? I would still get the idea of audience for their writing, but I would present it in a different way. You're writing a message to your best friend, and then your best friend is sitting right beside you. You want to communicate by messages. So yes, age, how we write, is a very important part of that. Anything else, Rania, that I've missed?
No, I think so far we've got a question that maybe we can answer later when we have a questions and answers.
Okay, thank you. So now, we're just going to go on. So why do we need an audience for writing? Why do I need you out there listening to me so that I can prepare this presentation? Why does a writer need an audience? And also, why is it important for our students to have an audience? Just drop your ideas in the chat, please. That's some reflection. A message needs a receiver. Who said that? I missed it already, but I don't know who you are. I missed your name, but thank you so much. Interaction. Yep. To evaluate the writing, well, maybe.
It's from Dured. Dured said the message needs a receiver.
Dured. Okay, thank you. It went too fast. I missed it, but thank you so much. Sharing experience, communication. That's a really good point. When we think of communication, we often think of spoken communication, but we communicate a lot by writing. To have the purpose, yeah, I like that idea that to have the audience, in order to have a purpose for our writing, we need to have an audience. Language is for communication, spoken and written language, yes. Okay, great. This is really good ideas. Let's just move on. Okay. And I think you've got everything that I've got down here, maybe. So I think it's really important Why? It provides, the audience gives us our purpose. Because without the audience, we don't have the purpose in writing. And then once we have our purpose, we need to have somebody besides the teacher. I mean, yes, we quite often say you're writing to a friend, but the only person who reads it is your teacher. So where's the motivation in that? So also, if we have a real member of the audience, they may be interested in what we're writing about. So if we're doing something, writing to a friend, or we're writing to somebody like what I'm doing here today, you're here. You must be interested in writing. You must have a reason for coming here. Maybe you want to hear about writing for an audience. So we have something in common. With an authentic audience, it can support growth. And it's a way of personalizing our writing, because it's just what we need to do. Publishing. So maybe we think of publishing, having it up online, having it published in a magazine or a book or something. But publishing can also be less formal than that. It can be sending a text message to your best friend. I'm publishing it. I'm letting other people read it. And I think it's also another really important thing is that it gives recognition to the child, to the student, and to what they're able to do. And I'm just going to add this in. I saw earlier, we were talking about the assessments. In a lot of the assessment criteria for writing, the ones that I have worked with, a recognition of audience is very much part of the criteria. Has the test taker, has the candidate recognized the audience, written for a particular audience rather than something neutral or very general? So this is why we do need to have an audience. And so how do we do this? I think that this is a really important part of it. So we have talked about the importance of audience. I can't see anybody here who disagrees with it. Is that correct, Rania? We're all agreeing that the audience is really important?
Yeah, all of us.
Okay. So in that case, we have a standard ground here. But now we've got to think about, how do we make that audience authentic? How do we go beyond saying you're writing to your best friend or to your cousin or so how do we go beyond that? And this is our next question. What do we do? So how do we do this? You want to just drop some ideas in the chat for us to see how can we create a real audience for our students? Any ideas? Peer review, perspectives from them. Thank you. Pair work. That's an interesting thing. We can do pair writing. Yeah. We can do group writing. Think about projects that you've done, both as an adult. School magazine, lovely ideas. I like these ideas. Exhibitions.
Exhibitions.
Nice. That's nice. We can. I'm actually going to talk about that. We can do blogs, so we can do online stuff. Yeah.
Presentations, gallery walks.
Oh, I love gallery walks. Yeah.
Writing club.
Mm-hmm. I've actually
class journals.
I've ran a couple of writing clubs. Yeah. Right. Nice. So I think we've got lots of ideas down, probably more than what I have. So students can write to each other. They can write to classmates in another class. They can present ideas. These are general sort of overarching statements. I love this idea of PBL is also a very important part of this too. So as we can see, this is you've given me some you've given us, not me in particular, you've given us some really specific things, but overarching statements would be that students can write to each other, they can write to somebody else in another class, they can present ideas in another class. So how do we do this? And I think I'm just going to move on. You've got lots and lots of ideas on how we can actually do this. So
they're saying that they like the idea. Sarah is saying she likes the idea of writing for another class, or somebody said you can have a writing competition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a nice idea, writing for another class. I mean, and that's actually it's actually quite easy to organize within the school system. So, I mean, we have things like, I got emails down here from Widad to writing challenges. Yeah, I've got this idea of topics, making sure that what we write about is of interest to our students, to our learners. So we've got things like, passing messages around. We can have writing games, emails. Remember, emails can be two extremes and everything in between. We have very formal emails. We also have quick humbles like instant messaging, WhatsApp messaging to people. I do both extremes sometimes in email personally. We can do stories. I've got younger students here, so we can have our students can write. So, for example, students in grade 4 can write a story for students in grade 1, or they can write a story and share amongst their classmates. Mini lessons. I've got something here called museum type displays. It would be things like gallery walks, presentations, that kind of thing. I haven't got that down here. School letters, school magazines. These are some of the things that we've done. Book stories for your younger schoolmates. So these are some of the things, and you've got a whole lot more that you've mentioned that I haven't got down here. You've got PBL, you've got class journals, you've got this idea of we can develop rules for different institutions or different rooms in our schools, blogging, and of course, exchanging writing. So you've got lots and lots of ideas that go beyond this very short list that I have here. Rania, do you want to say something?
And I just looked at Vicky. Vicky said that they tried something called a snail mail because they've got two schools and they asked grade 3 in both the schools to write to each other.
I like that. I love how snail mail, how it used to be a real letter. Okay, yeah. And we got this idea of writing recipes too. Again, we can actually then follow the recipe and exchange the recipe that we've created. So there are all sorts of ways that we can do it within our classmates. So I'll start out with something which is something I've called pass the message. And how do I explain this? Well, I'm just going to bring it up. So this is a WhatsApp chat. My WhatsApp kind of looks like this. It's just a square screen. I've got the phone there to show you that is actually a phone. And this is something which we can actually do without using a phone, of course. So how do you think we could do this without using a phone? Does anybody want to put something in the chat to give us some ideas to see if you've got different ways of doing things than what I've written down? Anybody? Quick. I love your ideas, everybody. I mean, I love the way that we're building our knowledge together in a sense of community that we have here. This is such a beautiful thing.
So basically cards, piece of paper, written notes, piece of paper, sticky notes, traditional letters, paper, sticky notes.
Yeah. Exactly.
Or on a board, a small board, and I have sticky notes.
Yeah, on the wall, Padlet. Yeah, we could use Padlet. Padlet is a nice application to use. Yeah, it would work too. Mini whiteboards or even laminated paper, and you can use that as a mini whiteboard. So yeah. Anyways, so what I've done, you can write messages to each other in any of those mediums that you've got up there. Sticky notes, paper. You could actually get the students to draw something like this too, and then this could be like a chat. Now, if you wanted to add a little bit of movement to the discussion, then we could also think about sending it. And I was thinking, well, how do we send our messages? Well, we can just get up and physically deliver them. You might want to send them in a paper airplane too. So you have your messages written on one side, and then you just send it off. I mean, if you get hit by a paper airplane, it's just a piece of paper. It's not going to cause any damage. So there's all sorts of ways that we can do this. So what we have here as Eldwa, I hope I said your name correctly, Eldwa. If not, please forgive me. We can just give them a template, or we can get the students to write their own template on a piece of paper. A slate, yes, we can use a slate or a mini whiteboard, whatever you have. You fall in love with the paper airplane idea. I mean, yeah, I like paper airlines. I give many thanks to Huma Riaz for paper airplanes, her idea that I have adapted and put inside of my teaching toolbox. So yeah, so this is one way that we can actually create these kinds of small messaging. And the other thing is, do the students need to have, I often hear that people say that our students don't have enough vocabulary to write. Can a student who's even at A1, could they write a text message? Give me a thumbs up if you think the answer is no. I can't see your thumbs up. Just give me a yes or no, or I've got people raising hands. Let me see. Yeah, I got lots of people raising hands or giving thumbs up. Yeah, so even a child, yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to lower your hands now. Thank you so much for the responses. Yes, yes, yes. So even if we have a child, a student who is at the A1 level, who has what, less than 1,000 words of vocabulary, they can write a message. So it will give them a real opportunity to use the language in an authentic way that is appropriate for the level. So also, I mean, phones are very common in Malaysia. I mean, small children use phones. If I'm not sure if that's the case in the Middle East, I think it is from my experience there. But we could also have a child who is in grade 1, level 1, primary 1. They could write a message to their friends that could be about, their homework, a game that they're playing, or so whatever happens to be the topic. So I think we've got drawing first. Well, actually, I like this, Sherwood. You've actually jumped ahead of me. And I've got another one here. I just can't see what we have. And this also could be a group chat. So you could have multiple people writing on the same message, and you have to have this very complicated conversation going on, as happens in WhatsApp conversations in real life. So I saw a comment about drawing first, and I've actually gone back to the old-fashioned way. So we could actually just use stick people. I mean, I know that a lot of us may have technology in our classrooms, but there are times when technology fails. You have power outages, or you just have a bad day and nothing works for you. So we can always fall back onto stick messages, and the people can actually, our students can actually, I mean, I'm an expert at drawing stick people. We can actually fall back on the stick people, and then you could just write the message, and students can take on the roles of the different stick people. How about a post box in the classroom for positive messages? Vicky, that is a beautiful idea. Yeah. So we can have positive messages coming out in that way. So this is a really interesting way that we're actually having all sorts of ways to pass the messages around. So we don't just have to use what we have here is something a bit like WhatsApp or smart messaging or short messaging or even emails. We can do it in all these really, really wonderful ways. So now this is moving us on to the next one. And this is, some of you mentioned gallery walks, presentations. Padlet may work well for this pass the message. Yep, Padlet would work well if you have access to that and your students have access to it. What else do we have here? There's some really interesting things happen here. Let's just look at the chat here. We have a gratitude jar. That's a lovely idea. Thank you, Laureen. Suggestion boxes are also a nice way of passing messages. Authenticity is not easy to reach in ESP and EFL classes. I think you're absolutely right, Bhagata Amri, but this is why writing short messages about a topic that the students have dealt with in class is a way of making the writing authentic. And I mean, I know when I've been learning. Go on, sorry, Rania.
No. Go on. I'll just share one idea actually. They said if it's applicable, you ask the students to write to the writer of a short story that you read to them, so they can write to the writer, ask them a question. That would be great if it's kind of efforts from the teacher to communicate with the writer, and if this is applicable, this is really authentic situation.
Yes, and I think it's something that that many of us, that's something that I've actually done that in classes. We get people to write to the writers. Unfortunately, we didn't actually post things off. So it was less authentic because we didn't post things off, but we did write to the writers. Writing to the writer can be amazing. Yes, thank you, Safa. It is. It's a very good experience. Now, another thing that we talked about, or many of you talked about, were presentations. Doing things like gallery walks, doing presentations. And this is sort of a take on that. And what I have suggested here are museum type displays. So what do you think a museum type display would be? I had a mail board in class with actual envelopes made by the students. That's the beautiful idea. Yes. So this is a really good thing that we can do. We can actually have a lot of tactile things going on in our classes with messaging. So not just using the technology. We are using technology. We're using multiple levels of technology and integrating the online world with the offline world and seeing how we can build our knowledge by joining these worlds together. And these are some of the things that are coming up in the chat, how we can do this. A mailbox inside the classroom. Yeah. Okay, now Safa has talked about posters, magazine articles. I can draw my message. Absolutely, Diana. We're looking at students who are at A1, possibly A2 level. They can draw the message. I mean, this is one of the joys of emojis, especially when you're writing in a language you're not very good at. Okay, flip books. Yes, Safa. These are things that we can use. These are beautiful, beautiful ideas. Well, I'm going to return to the museum type displays. And in the museum type display, okay, yes, we are going to share the recording. Thank you so much, Rania. So in the museum type display, we have to think about the audience. So this could be a presentation. It could be a gallery walk. It could be also developing things in classes. It could also be a poster. Thank you, Nabila. But the first thing that we would have to do is to figure out who the audience is. And I've just put an audience in primary 3, grade 3, level 3. So these would be students who are about 8. Yeah, they're about 8, 9 years old. And like, yes, Saima, yes, it would be project displays. You do it online too. You could actually take it online, or we could actually do it in the physical world. So either the physical world or the online world. Pictures and cards, yes. You guys are just jumping way ahead of me.
Yeah, actually, there was a question from a teacher. I just couldn't catch the name. He was asking, how can we encourage students from 8 to 9 years old? And I think now you're showing them. You said they're in a primary 3. They are 8 years old, 9 years old. So this is the answer to your question.
Yeah, it is. So, and I came up with this idea of the museum is something I was reading, and the reason why I've opted to use a museum type display instead of a gallery walk is because many of us would have visited museums. We go on school, take students on school trips to museums in the Middle East and North Africa. I mean, you look out your door and you have history in front of your door. It was like that in Malaysia too, and all the parts of the world too. But it's something that we have present in our lives. And that's the reason why I went for a museum type display rather than a gallery walk. So in order to do this, my topic is wild animals in Egypt. We quite often think about history in museums, but in the museums that I've been to, especially the ones in the parts of the world that I've traveled to, you get a combination of history and the natural world, and also the historical world, the physical, we get all sorts of things. And then I went on, well, what do I think about? Well, I thought, well, content. I need some pictures. I need some captions. And I would probably have to have some short text on animals. So we can see that this is not a lot of writing. It will be a lot of pictures. It could be either done in Padlet or in other online apps. Short text and animals, sorry, that disappeared. I'm going to do the ostrich. The information I got is that you have ostriches in Egypt. Is that correct? Those of you from Egypt? I hope my source is correct. And then we have a picture, we have the title, we would have.
There's a
Oh, yes.
question, what is meant by a display? Some Basma's asking, what exactly is meant here by a display?
A display would be something that people would be looking at and reading. That's what I mean by it's kind of like a gallery walk where you put the writing up or whatever you want students to look at, you put it up on a whiteboard or a display board, and people come and take a look at it. So this is bringing a museum into our classrooms. A picture, title, description, yes. And this could be, there's all sorts of ways that we could display this in classes. Let's have some ideas from the group. How can we create the displays? Any ideas before I give you my ideas? Content can be a problem, but we can help with content, can't we? I mean, if we're looking at animals or a topic that you have discussed in class, it doesn't have to be animals, it could be games, it could be pets, then the students should have some content coming from their textbook or from the class discussion. So you choose a topic that fits your students. I've chosen wild animals in Egypt. This is an interesting point, Vicky. This is combining the arts, the fine arts, so making the animals out of clay, and that would make it truly authentic. Main info about animals. So yeah, so we'd have to actually in some way get texts that are appropriate for the students, that are at the level that our students can understand. Yep, you can do fruits, cities, people, clay animals as realia. Absolutely. And if the students make the animals out of clay and paint them and you sunbake them, really nice. You could actually use videos. You could use Polygon. Yes, thank you. So there's all sorts of ways that we could actually get the characters, animals to speak about it. That is one way of doing it. Yes, I didn't think of that. Thank you so much, Saida. Nawi is saying we can use a Canva application to create pictures and cards. I'm sure you haven't seen my presentation. Anybody else? We can use Padlet, we can use flashcards, we can use anything with pictures on it. So we've got this idea of creating a display of something. And one of the things that I was thinking about, well, how do we need to do this place? If we want to move the display into another classroom, then we have to have it on a way that we can move it. So perhaps we could do it on A3 size paper. A3 size paper is paper that's about this tall or this long. We could use display boards, but that makes the display very permanent. We could also use online resources. And as I was thinking, we could also then make movable displays by using, here we get lots and lots of delivery boxes. We could actually use the cardboard boxes that we get from the parcels that we have delivered, and we could have it as a movable board. Sahara said we can use flip charts. Yep, if your school has those available, that also makes it easy. Smart boards will be using online stuff. Absolutely, Sumaya. And this then leads me to, we can also use online platforms to do this. So we can have the idea of a museum walkway with your wonderful ideas using realia, getting the animals to do the realia, to make the animals. We can have drawing, people can draw the pictures. We can combine all sorts of different things inside of an activity like this. We're in an English class, we're looking at the natural world, we're looking possibly at climate change, we're looking at the arts, drawing, creativity. So we're putting all sorts of things into it. You can also do it as a big storybook. Realia are real things. Azza, a realia is real things. but the idea is to make it authentic. And that was why I went towards using a museum type display. It would work really well if the students had actually been to a museum as a class trip or so forth. And we've also got this idea that we can get information from videos. And that's a really good point, that when we start looking for the information, we could, how we give the students the opportunity to collect the information. We, of course, have to curate or collect together the materials. It could be videos, it could be short writing about the animals. It could also be group work or pair work. Have I missed anything? Simple costumes. So we could actually have people actually out the costumes. That's cool. This is from Miriam. Thank you, Miriam. Yeah, we're really going into the drama thing. We're all working over. We're working so well.
Yeah. Yeah, they kind of seen your slides.
Yeah. So I really think they've seen my slides, because the next one.
No.
Well, I'm just joking, because I've actually got something that I created from Canva. So somebody earlier, I can't remember who it was, I forget their name, I said, well, we can use Canva. We can. Canva is, believe me, I have no affiliation to Canva. It's got the basic account, which comes with a limited number of templates. It's free of charge. If you want something fancier, then you have to decide what you're willing to how you want to pay for that. But a room full applications. My high school students love creating leaflets. And Carlos, this is the kind of thing that Canva is very good at. But well, I've used Canva for here. But we also have to remember we can do stuff like this on PowerPoint slides. We can do stuff like this in Word documents or Google documents or Google Slides. So we don't even have to have, I mean, it may be slightly less funny, fancy, it may be a little bit more complicated to do, but we're then linking in the IT skills that our students need to develop with the language. So we're doing a lot of things at one time. So we're developing the soft skills, we're developing the creativity, and we're probably working in groups, so we're also developing or enabling the students to work together to develop the social skills that are very much needed. We can use Padlet, but Padlet doesn't let you to do so much designing. So you need to think about why we're doing it. So I think personally for sharing a poster is nice in Padlet, but designing a poster would be a little bit difficult because you have to share the designed document. So we have this. You can see I've got animals that come from Egypt. I've double checked this. We have the Nile crocodile without the picture. We have a leopard, which is a very large cat. We have a red fox, which I found interesting. It crosses the world. Moodle's also great too. Thank you, Safar. And we have a very small sand cat. So there are ways of doing this, and this could actually be group work. So, and what's the other thing is this, if we're doing these museum type of activities, you may get some interaction going on. You could have people being tour guides, talking about the displays, talking about things. So there's all sorts of ways of extending this. But I think it's also really important that the original, where it comes from, would be our curriculum, what's in our textbooks, and we take it and we build on what's in our textbook. So we don't create something from the top of our heads. We use what's in our textbooks. So, Rania, have I missed anything that we need to mention here?
No. They're talking about they've got many requests. Is it recorded? There are a lot of great ideas here, and they talking about the great ideas. Kelmani tortoise. The tortoise from Egypt is endangered and being sold. Okay, that's shot.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is a worldwide problem about this kind of stuff. Somebody asked what was Realia. I think I answered that question. Realia.
Yes, you did. You answered the question.
Yeah. Realia is something that's real. Like, for example, my pen. Yeah, this would be, I'm teaching about a pen. This is a pen. This is Realia. Or it could be something like a phone. There we go. So anyway, so let's just move on. Now, we've been talking about within the classroom or within maybe the class next door, but sometimes we've talked about making it authentic by going beyond the classroom. And any any ideas of how we can actually reach out to an audience as a student or as a teacher to get our students to reach out to an audience and have this person beyond the classroom? We've already talked about writing to writers, writing to authors. Sahara said we can get family members involved. Yes, publishing. This is an interesting one. There's all sorts of publishing, writing contests online.
Or you write to a police officer.
And this is interesting. So I said from Pakistan, the national animal, makar, is part of the national curriculum. I mean, they do that in Malaysia too. We have stuff about orangutans, which is a very important animal in Malaysia. It's also an endangered species here. Yeah, a lot of animals are endangered. Application letters. There's all sorts of things that we can do. But the idea is to actually go on, please, Rania.
Thank you letter also.
Yeah, all sorts of things.
Agony letters.
Exactly. But see, with agony letters, we can actually write real agony letters online, or we could write them to a classmate and then have them be the responder. They call them in Malaysia, they call them the agony auntie. I'm sure you have an equal term in the Middle East. So we can actually do all sorts of things here. We can have persuasive writing. These are examples. You've got many, many more examples in the chat. I haven't got room to write all this down on a slide. So we can do persuasive writing. That's one way of doing it for ideas of change something aspect to the school management. So maybe, you want to have different facilities. You don't want to wear a uniform, whatever. Persuasive writing. Again, because, I mean, we're looking at young adults. So we're looking at how we can actually engage our students. This is perhaps more secondary. Writing contests, pen pals, newsletters for parents. Now, there may be some concerns if we're actually approaching people who are outside of the school community. Is that not correct? Would we have to be careful who we talk to and get involved in our schools? I mean, here we would have to talk to our principals, the administrations in the schools. We would also have to be careful about permissions if people want to receive these kinds of letters. There may be safety concerns that we need to be aware of when we're involving our school community with a community that's outside of the school. Presenting a public speech. So writing a speech is actually something that sometimes comes up in tests or exams. Designing posters collaboratively. Yes, if it fits your topic, these are really wonderful things to do. So what I looked at was here. I checked. So what sports are becoming more popular in Egypt? And basketball seemed to be something that's becoming more popular. So then I thought, well, how can we do this? How do we get people to build more basketball courts? And this would be an email. Okay. So would this be a formal email or an informal email? In the chat. Is it formal or informal? Please, can somebody just let me? Yes, thank you, Fauzia. It's formal. And absolutely formal. It's not just sitting and talking about it with your best friend. It's a formal email. So it's not a WhatsApp message. It's somebody, either perhaps the head of the school, your principal, your head teacher, or it could be somebody in the administration from the city. A city mayor. Yes, I was thinking a city mayor, or even perhaps the teacher who's responsible for physical education. It's a good idea to connect students to real life needs and be part of the solutions. And Fatima, that's actually one of the points with it. And this will make the writing authentic. Although we would have to do a lot of scaffolding, a lot of support in the background to do this. As long as it's written for someone in charge. Yes, absolutely, Azza. So it's an email, and this would be an example of the email. This is an example, probably somebody who is in secondary school at a B1 level. I think this is a little bit higher than a B2 level, than a A2 level. Sorry about that. It's probably at a B1 level. The sentences are pretty short. The language is also not high level. Yes, absolutely, Hasiba. City Hall principal, the head teacher, PE teacher, so forth. So suggestions to develop the facility. So in this case, I've used a basketball court. So if we were going to actually adapt this to our classes, the petition, yeah, you could do a petition instead of an email, but it would depend on what your learning objectives are. So if email is part of your syllabus, you need to write an email, then writing an email to a mayor, a city mayor, then incorporates, ties in with the authentic audience, with something that the students would identify with. Suggestions, absolutely. So this is one way that we would do it, that we could do it, not that we would do it. And remember, when we do things like this, we need to set it up for our students. This is only an example. Sports is something that happens sports are a topic that is discussed quite often in schools. We would need to set the scene. It would have to come from our syllabus. Sports would be in our syllabus. We need to think about the language requirements, how we're going to set it up, how we're going to support the students in writing an email. And of course, before it's sent out, we need to check that the emails are appropriate. And of course, we would have to go through the administration in our schools to make sure that they are okay with our idea. So does anybody have any comments about that? An initiative to collect money. So who are we collecting money for? That's a really important thing to think about too, yes. Well, everybody, we are coming up to the end of the time. I would do it collaboratively, and then lead on to individual work, because this is I think writing quite often is a collaborative activity. Reward system to get the students to write. They have pain in their hands after a couple of paragraphs. I need to give prize for neatness. Well, we can do that too, but maybe their motivation would be a topic of interest, writing to somebody who is real. Well, everybody, so we have talked about making our audience real very quickly in the chat. So which idea do you think you're going to take home or take away and put into your writing classes? Just very quickly in the chat, please. Oh, I don't quite know what's happened there. Very quickly in the chat. Gallery walk, paper jets. Oh, I love that, paper jets. Yes, we have our paper jets. Museum displays, writing emails. Yeah.
Museum. They love the idea of museum.
it's an extension of the gallery walk, but it just adds that sense of authenticity to it. Yeah, I have done similar things in class. So we didn't call them museum displays; we called them something else. Art displays, the poster ideas, laminating paper as boards. Yes, I actually have an example of that someplace. I could actually find that out for you. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. It looks like we're taking some stuff away from this. And I promise the resources. These are the resources, everybody. But I'll just split them into the Facebook page. They're all coming from British Council Teaching English website or Edutopia. And we've done all these things here today. We've talked about audience, how it adds purpose, how we do this within our classrooms, within our schools, and beyond schools. And so if you want your certificates, I'm sure you want your certificates. You can scan this to get your certificate, but everybody, you need to download it. You need to download it on a laptop or a desktop in order. Oh, thank you, Rania, for adding this for me. I just couldn't add it. I will add it into the chat. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So you can, this is the QR code for the certificates. Scan it, but remember you need to download, you need to open the PDF file in a laptop or a desktop in order to be able to write your name in it. So you just download it where it says type your name, you just type your name. This is also another link, an important website. This is the Teaching English website. I hope we can put this into the chat too. This is a very, very valuable website lots and lots of fantastic ideas from the British Council, the British Council Teaching English website. This is a really good one. And we have other.
Yes, go ahead, Anne.
Okay, and I'm just going to go on to some of the other QR codes. We need the link for the certificate. Do you have the link for the certificate, Rania?
Yeah. I'm just going to post it. This is the link for the Facebook page. And
Mhm.
while I'm trying to find the link for the certificates, there were questions, Anne, about
Oh,
authenticity and using AI, and I think that could be done maybe in another webinar. But there were many questions related to AI. What is the acceptable amount of AI? Where is authenticity if there is AI? So there were all these questions. And
and
what is acceptable and what's not acceptable?
and I mean, I've had this discussion with many people, and there is no black or white answer. I think that AI is a tool, and I think what we have to do is make sure that we treat it like a tool, not let it dominate us. But this is, I think, Rania, you're right. This is a discussion for a whole new webinar, and way beyond what we can do in this last minute or two.
Yeah. And we're talking about, today's focus is just really creating this audience inside the classroom without really any devices or technology sometimes.
Well,
So,
yeah.
yes, yeah.
Exactly. It's aimed for the low resource classroom, for those of us who are teaching where the internet's not very well, but the ideas can
Exactly.
be transferred over, or the ideas from the internet can be transferred over. So there is this sense of duality that we can use something from our classrooms and then apply it like in Padlet to the internet. Or we can take something like Canva and then we can print it out and then we have a walking poster. So yeah, I think there's the sense of duality that we have to, my view anyways, this is a personal opinion, is part of our tools. We have to put everything together. Well, everybody, we can also have Facebook. Do we have the Facebook? These are QR codes for Facebook, LinkedIn page for the British Council. And I haven't got the Facebook page.
I've just shared it, but I can share it again.
Okay, you can't. Okay, if you can't scan a QR code, we've actually shared the link, and you will receive an email sharing the link with you. There we go. And I'm going to say thank you to everybody. It's been wonderful talking to you. We've gone over by 1 minute. Oh no, hope you forgive me. So thank you so much, everybody. It's been such a wonderful time talking to all of you, sharing ideas, and growing professionally. I think we're on a wonderful learning journey together. We're part of a very valuable, very dynamic community of practice, and the discussion was amazing to get. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Anne. Thank you.
We'll see you in about 30 minutes at Mohammed's talk, which is teaching students the way they learn. So we'll see you in about 30 minutes. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to close the meeting.
You.
Please go and have a drink and then come back for Mohammed.
Yes, and grab a cup of coffee and come back to Muhammad's webinar.
Exactly. So thank you so much, everyone, and we will see you in a half an hour or so. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.